Hello, everybody. I just want to address this topic that we have here, and it is really what in the world is the church supposed to be? It's a great question, and that we all need to find an answer to. And so I'm gonna jump right into it. The church, when you look at the definition, the church, the ecclesia, is really a secular term, called out people. And many a times that term was used in the Greek for things such as a public forum. It was what they would use to call people out of their homes to discuss something. And so Jesus uses that terminology there in Matthew chapter 16 in his dialogue with Peter when they asked him, who do they say that I am? And Peter tells them that, hey, you know what? You're the Son of God. And Jesus says only the Spirit reveals that to you. And he tells them that I will build my church on this revelation that I am the Son of Man. And so there's not to say that there can't be other churches. Jesus just said that my church, my called out people, will be based upon the revelation of who I am. And so the first thing that we see that the church is supposed to be, it's supposed to be God's people. In the Old Testament and the New Testament, we see God interacting with humanity and pulling out for himself a group of people, people that he has direct contact with, that he communicates, that he reveals himself and his will to. And that's an amazing, amazing thing that we can look and see how God interacts with people. Another thing the church is supposed to bring is purpose. One of the pastors that I read books and follow pretty closely out there says that the local church is the hope of the world. And as this book that we've been reading is a light to the nations, that is what the church is supposed to bring. And when people are looking for hope, when people are looking for inspiration, and when they're looking for healing and reconciliation, they shouldn't have to look for an organization. They need to look for the organism. And the organism is the body of Christ. We have to understand that God has not just called us to be his people, but we have to bring purpose to wherever we are tasked to be, because purpose is attached with mission. And the mission out there is for us to go and make disciples of all nations. God gave us a blank check and said, hey, this is what the mission is. And he expects his people to fill that great commission. So the church has to bring purpose to the world. The last thing that the church really should do is to show the world that God has a plan. We don't believe that he's the blind watchmaker, that he created the earth, wound it up, and walked away, and to leave everybody up to their own devices. No, God has always had a plan. And when we look at the plan of God, we see that the people of God are focused upon his return. We have a focus on the end times. We don't get caught up in today and the trapping of lives today, but we focus our sights upon the future, that we have a risen king and that he could come back at any time. We have to understand that the church has been used to show that, because we carry this message and we talk about this message week after week about how we believe that Jesus Christ was raised from the dead and that he sits at the right hand of God, and from that position of authority that he will judge both living and the dead. So the church has this wonderful and awesome responsibility of being Jesus's hands and feet while we're on this planet. We have this awesome responsibility to tell this world that God not only has an overarching plan for humanity, but he also has a plan for an individual. Specifically, God has a plan for all of us. And the church has to be the one to stand up and declare in this culture that he has a plan, and his plan can be trusted.